The Border Management Authority has launched new highly secure immigration entry and exit stamps to enhance border security. This comes after fraudulent activities were reported where some travellers fake the old stamps. The new stamps came into effect on the 1st of August. Newsroom Africa's Zola Sholwana is tracking the story for us and joins us now live. A very good afternoon to you, Zola. We just saw that media briefing that took place just a short while ago by the BMA. Tell us a little bit more about these new interventions as well.
Well, Masa, you would understand that the Border Management Authority has been working to ensure that they control our very porous borders, especially those that were identified as, porous borders, rather that they needed enhanced security. You're talking about the Bay Bridge or Tambo International Airport. Now, in today's briefing, we learned about new stamps that have been introduced by the Border Management Authority, and this is to obviously ensure that they are enhancing security. As you'd understand, that there's been a lot of fraudulent activity that has been reported when they were using these very, very simple, stamps. Masa, we'll speak to the BMA Commissioner just to take us through these new stamps and also, how they are quite unique, looking at these ones. This one, Mas, I'm sure you're able to see that it's quite simple. It's something that one can find, anywhere at any bookshop, and that's what we heard in the briefing. But the ones that they have, will have security features and, of course, some features that you and I might not be able to know. Doctor, thank you very much for your time. Let's speak about the story for the day, and this is obviously the launch of these stamps that we know that came into effect on the 1st of August. How are you sure that these ones that are now the ones that came into effect are much better than the old ones?
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Zola. We really appreciate the opportunity. Yeah, yes, indeed. I mean, those ones were very much vulnerable, and people will duplicate them and ultimately go out there and stamp people's passports. So long as it is a date, people will literally just be able to move around, and that has been very problematic. So we then took a very long process with our colleagues from Government Printing Works and be able to design the stamps. And if you can see them, I mean, this is now the stamp. As you can see it, we do have an engraving on this particular stamp of Border Management Authority, as it were. The entire logo is here, and of course the write-up. So firstly, from just this part, you wouldn't necessarily be able to easily duplicate. Now, if you were to go into the inner part of it, firstly, you will then realize that we also have our own logo engraved inside the actual stamp, but at the same time, we also have the big five, your lions, your everything also being engraved in here. But the second most critical part is that we are also using a special ink, when we do the stamping, and that on its own is not an ordinary ink that you can buy at a shop, as we used to do with the old stamps, as it were. But the other most critical part is that we had instances where people will basically even use their own stamps to stamp passports illegally. So this time around, each and every stamp gets given to an official, and therefore a number on a stamp then gets linked to a particular official. So even as they stamp the passport, that number actually comes out on that particular stamp, meaning that should you as an official go use this particular stamp to stamp a passport of somebody illegally, once we intercept that person ourselves, or even Home Affairs through Inspectorate pick that person in the country, that particular number will link back to you, and you will have to answer, why has your stamp been stamping passports illegally? So these are some of the interventions that we have done to make sure that we are able to deal with the abuse of the stamps, and it has been the case.
Commissioner, let's speak about the challenges that BMA is currently facing, and, being underfunded is one of those, because you mentioned that when BMA was launched, you did mention that you expected government, or rather your expectations was that you will be funded with 3.2 billion. And currently the amount of, or the budget that you have is nowhere near the amount that you are expecting to have, which then that becomes a problem because it prevents you from fulfilling your mandate.
Yeah, you see, the issue of funding for the BMA is something which, is a bit of a public matter or a public record. We have been to a number of committees in Parliament, the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs, the Standing Committee on Appropriation. We've just been there 3 weeks ago. We have also been to the Select Committee on Security and Justice, again, reflecting on this issue. The interesting thing about BMA funding, even at the political class level, there is an appreciation of the need for the funding of the BMA. So if you are to look historical is that the business case that we started with, which was in 2022, preparing for the 1st of April 2023, was basically requiring 2.9 billion as the new money to fund the organization. But of course, at the time, we did get an indication that only 250 million is available. So remember, the rest of the people that came to BMA came from departments, which means that they came with their salaries. So that is why if you look at our budgetary footprint, we are sitting at 90% being compensation of employees and only 10% to function or to run the organization. So we did that business case in 2022 for 2023, and again we couldn't succeed. 2023 for 2024, we still could not succeed. We only got additional 50 million, which brought us to 300 million. And again, we did the last one last year in 2024 for 2025. In that particular one, again, only another 50 million added. We now are sitting at 350 million. We are talking about new money. So in that extent, we are sitting at a point where if you look at our current business case, we are supposed to be sitting at around 4.3 billion as we speak. And that is basically the challenge that we are sitting with. In terms of human resources, you will realize that our structure requires around 11,200 people, but we are sitting at 2,500, and that is the status quo.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mike Masiabado, who is the Commissioner of the Border Management Authority, taking us through these new stamps that we know about that are, of course, part of the authority's measures to tighten security in our various ports of entry, land, air, you can name them, Masa. And this is to really ensure that people that are trying to access South Africa using illegal routes are prohibited through these measures. We know that currently there are conversations between the relevant authorities to perhaps adjust the budget of the Border Management Authority, as we understand that if they continue being underfunded, they might find themselves in a position where they are challenged in terms of fulfilling their mandate. Masa, back to you in studio.